After we got married, my dad took Ron out in the backyard of our little apartment and gave him a lesson on how you can reuse rubbers. And he said you wash them clean and everything, and then you uh, dry them off, and then you use powder, talcum powder or whatever, a little bit of talcum powder, and lay them out and put the powder on them and everything, not inside them, but on the outside. And then you can reuse them 6 or 7 times,
Good
according
grief.
to him. Well, we didn't have money. They did not have money when they got married, and so they would be very frugal. And we tried
That's
it.
about as frugal as you can get.
Well, we tried it. We tried it a few times, but it didn't work. Let's just suffice to say, because it was too dry with the powder and stuff. Let's leave it at that. So anyway, we didn't have much money. We had one car, and Ron would use it to go to college, and I would walk most days on my lunch hour.
Yeah, we did that. So then when you found out you were pregnant.
Okay, so when I found out I was really pregnant, after 3 years later, I was very, very happy. We were happy. We'd been married 3 years. It was a joyous occasion.
Where'd you live?
We still lived in that same apartment so far in San Luis Obispo. So he was in his third year of college, but we were still in San Luis Obispo. And so he was still going to college. I was still working at the phone company. So, so Wendy, the first baby, was born in San Luis Obispo.
Wasn't there a funny story, or a dad, the day I was born, something to do with dad made a citizen's arrest or something?
Oh boy, I totally forgot about that.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Yeah, you know what? I vaguely remember something about that, but I don't remember that story. So anyway, we loved San Luis Obispo, but when he graduated, everybody came, and it was a joyous occasion. He graduated in 1960. Well, that's not important. 1969 or something like that. No, Wendy was born in 1968. Yes, he graduated in 1969.
Okay.
And then we.
So when you were at the hospital, how was your labor with me?
It was good. I mean, I was very lucky with Wendy. I did not have a real bad labor, and it went really well. The doctor induced labor with her. You might not know this, Wendy. The doctor induced labor with me because he said I was small in stature, and he didn't want me having a really hard labor or something like that. He said, you're small, and the baby is already full term, and you can go ahead and go to the hospital and pretty soon. So we went to the hospital. And in those days, I remember, in those days, the husbands were not allowed to be in the room when the woman was having labor, which was not fun. So there I was, laying there I had labor about 8-9 hours, which seemed like a long time to me. But the worst of it was that, Ron was not allowed to be there. So he was out in the waiting room watching Daniel Boone. I'll never forget. And I was in there, and they'd check on me once in a while.
How'd you know what he was watching?
Because he told me later. and he watched other than that, because it was 8 hours, which seemed like forever to me, but they considered that a very good labor, not too bad, not too long, just about the right amount. And I had her, I'm trying to think, like 6 o'clock in the evening or something, and it was a fairly easy labor. It wasn't too bad. So she was a good baby. She was 6.5 pounds, to my recollection, 6 pounds 8 ounces, and nice healthy baby. And we brought her home, and she was a really good baby.
Did I cry a lot?
No, you were very happy.
What about food? Did I eat everything?
No, you were. Oh, you were picky, picky, picky. Oh my goodness, you were terrible about that. And after a while, after about a year or something, I had to work too. We both had to work, and so I took her to a babysitter. And the babysitter said, "You don't really have to worry about it. You liked your bottle. That was it. You liked your bottle, and you did not want to eat baby food."
Probably why I sucked on my thumb.
Yeah. Well, I did too. I did. You know that I had to wear thumb guards, and they were metal things that fit all your up over your thumbs to keep you from sucking your thumbs.
Wow.
Because I was like 3 or 4, and so they bought these metal guards. Because I was terrible about it. You were never that bad, but you turned from a thumb sucker into a bottle baby. You wanted that bottle, and that's all you wanted. You didn't want to eat. You wanted that bottle. And so one day we spent a lot, we'd go visit Delbert and Marie, Ron's parents, pretty often. They adored Wendy. They adored both babies. But Wendy was the first, and so they just thought she was it. But Marie said, okay, what you have to do is just tell her that the bottle is at Grandma's house, and that's where it lives now, and you don't have it anymore. And that's what we did, and it actually worked. But you were a very picky eater. She was a very picky eater. We finally got her into a little bit of soup. And that's how the babysitter and I would work on that because I worked. And
Where'd you work?
I still worked at the phone company.
Oh.
And so eventually Ron's job, he graduated from college and we moved to Modesto, California. And I had to get a different job. And I can't remember. I was still working for the phone company. That's right. I changed divisions.
Oh.
I worked for the engineering department of the phone company.
In Modesto.
In Modesto. And I drew maps, believe it or not, of all things. I'm always lost. But anyway, I drew maps for the cable TV that was put up on the telephone poles. So I had to draw intricate maps for the engineer that went out. But I only did it for 1 year. Then I got pregnant with Jennifer. And Jennifer was a little bit of a harder pregnancy for me.
Do you remember calling your parents and Dad's parents and telling them you were pregnant
yes,
again?
They were very excited. Very, very excited. Everybody was really excited because wanted another baby. It had been 3.5 years, I think.
2 3/4 of a year.
Yeah, 2 3/4 years. So anyway, everybody was very excited. Marie was very excited. Everybody was. My parents too. But I had to quit my job because it was a little bit of a harder pregnancy. And because due to the shape of my uterus. So that one was more a challenge. I don't know why, but it was. And so, anyway, but it was fine. I was doing great. And
How did your labor go with that one?
this is funny. So I had waited for Wendy's labor. Like I said, I laid in there 8 hours. To me, that felt like forever because I was alone because they didn't allow the males back there. And they really didn't check on me much. So this time I said, you know what? I'm not going to the hospital till I'm ready because I figured I'd know what that felt like. So we were at a friend's house and we just waited and waited and waited. And then finally I said, Ron, I think we better go to the hospital now. So we get in the car and then I said, we better hurry. And so we got there. And then again, he couldn't go with me. And so they weren't ready for me. They weren't ready. They didn't have a room. And my doctor wasn't there. And they'd left me in the hall. And I came very, very, very close to having that baby in the hall.
Oh.
I just barely got in the room and I had the baby. And Jennifer was small. She was 5.5 pounds, where Wendy was 6.5. Which to me didn't sound like a lot. It just didn't sound like a lot. But
she wasn't premature, she was just small.
No, they didn't call it premature at first. They just said she's a small baby. Then later they said that's considered premature. And they said we need to keep her in an incubator because she kept losing weight. Now, I don't understand why. But she got down to, I think it was 4.5 pounds. So they
Was it because she was born with one of her lungs?
One of her lungs after she was born. She was born fine, but after she was born, one of her lungs collapsed.
Now, how did your parents and Dad's parents react to all this happening?
Well, we lived closer, much closer to. We lived in Modesto, and Ron's parents lived in Porterville, so that was close to Marie and Delbert. My parents were way down in LA area, and they were not physically close. So Marie and Delbert came over to help if they needed to help. They were going to keep Wendy at a home, and
At their home?
because I was still in the hospital.
At their home or your home?
At my home, our home. So they kept Wendy while I was in the hospital because I was in there for. They were going to keep me for a while, and Jennifer was still in an incubator, and so they ended up keeping her.
What was that? It was hard on you and Dad.
Yeah, well, I ended up going home. I got better, and she kept losing some weight, so they put her in an incubator and kept her for 11 days or something. It was very hard, and I went back and forth and nursed her, and I didn't have transportation. Ron had one car; he had to work. It was so they came and helped, and they'd drive me back and forth, and I would nurse her, and then we finally worked it out, and then she came home after 11 days, I think, 11 and a half or whatever, 11 days. And she gained back her weight up to 5.5 pounds, and they let her go home. And she was healthy, pretty good healthy.
Was she a good baby?
She was a good baby. She was very, very quiet. Well, both of you were very good babies. You didn't cry all the time or anything like that. You hear horror stories. Both of you were really good babies. You didn't cry a lot or anything like that.
Did Jennifer, was she good with eating?
Not really. No, because she had to have special food, high protein food. And I nursed her. That's the main thing. They made sure. I'll never forget. The doctor had to make sure that I had enough milk in my nipples and stuff. And so I had to wear a gown in the hospital, a very clean gown. And so I had this gown on and nothing else underneath except panties. And he said, "Let me check your nipples." And I'm like, "What?" And so he didn't even touch anything. He was going to, and but my nipples were just leaking, just pouring out liquid, because the gown was touching my nipples. And he said, "Never mind, you're fine." And so he didn't touch me at all. He didn't have to, because I was so ready to nurse her, because I had been pumping my breasts. They said, "You have to go home and you have to pump your breasts." So Ron had to go home and find a 4D bra, which I didn't own, and a pumper. And he had to go find these things because I couldn't do anything. I was home trying to maintain my breasts and all this stuff. And so he went home, and I was still in the hospital. That was it. So he found all this stuff, and I had to pump my breasts and everything, save the milk, bring it to the hospital, feed her, all this stuff. And that went on for 11 days, like I said. But thank God she came home. She was so healthy.
Oh, okay. We're going to take a break, Mom.
Okay.